Tyrone Bowman live. Welcome to the program on this evening. Welcome to the conversation with everything that's happening within the news regarding the um, the murder of the former CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson. And I think I did a video not too long ago about the alleged murderer. He was arrested, of all places, in Altoona, Pennsylvania, on a gun charge. But that's not the topic of this conversation. I found an interesting video from a program entitled I'm the Boss of Me 63. She is a former employee of United Healthcare, and she admittedly says she did not know former CEO uh, Brian Thompson. But she had some interesting things to say, and I want to play this video here. I'd like to say to the Thompson family, around America, across America, and around the world, our sincere prayers and condolences and heartfelt sympathy for the friends and the family and relatives of the late Brian Thompson. And we hope and pray that justice will be speedy and quickly. All right, now let's get down to this video here at Tyrone Bowman Live. Thank you for subscribing to the program. Hopefully, you might subscribe while this lady's talking right here. So let's just listen to what she has to say.
So I want to talk about the shooting of the CEO guy from United Healthcare. And there's a couple things I got to say before I start. And the first is that I don't condone violence, okay? So murdering somebody, that's not the way to go. It's not right. It's wrong. It's bad, okay? And here's where I'm probably making a mistake doing this, but it is what it is, and I don't care. I used to work for United Healthcare. It's been over 10 years. When I started, it was actually Mamsie Mid-Atlantic Medical Systems Incorporated, something like that, and they were purchased by United Healthcare. And I started out in customer service, in provider services, taking calls from doctors' offices about their claims and benefits, et cetera, for their patients. And eventually, I moved up the corporate ladder to a supervisor in the call center. And like I said, I was there for 13 years, and my experience there was not good, but I did expect to retire from that company when I started working there. So if things had gone the way I had planned, I would actually still be working there. So there's that. The other thing I want to say is I know that people are very unhappy with our healthcare, and that this is a very emotionally charged, highly charged, strong opinions, and that's okay. I don't have a problem with it because I personally have my own strong opinions, and I'm going to tell you some things that I experienced when I worked there and what my opinions are. And you're welcome to voice those opinions in the comment sections. Just remember that we're not going to violate any terms of services as far as YouTube goes. And I also have people who are still working for that company, so please don't just go to the buildings that have United Healthcare on them and decide to do random active or planned acts of violence, especially in the areas where I used to live or areas that I reported to as I go along. So, because there are still people that work there that I care about, okay? So it's not the people, it's the company that I have a problem with. And I know it's run by people, but I was on the bottom end of that ladder, okay? I was not way up here. I didn't know the CEO, which, by the way, this Brian guy, he was not the CEO when I worked there. It was another one. Okay, so let's start my story. Yes, I worked for Mamsie, and Mamsie was acquired by United Healthcare. And at the time that they acquired it, in that year prior, they had expanded their territory to North and South Carolina. And Mamsie is basically an HMO, but they did offer PPO policies. And so we bought in or required, or whatever the technical term is. I don't know what it is anymore. I don't remember. But we went into United Health. We went into North and South Carolina, and then UniteHealthcare acquired us. So we sold all these policies to people with HMOs, and what they miraculously did was pulled the network of providers out of the area. So we sold all these policies, and people could not get in-network doctors, which means they had to use their PPO benefits. Which, if you know anything about it, the PPO benefit is never as good as the HMO benefit. And I started getting calls about this and what are they supposed to do? Well, the closest providers that they could go to that were in network were in Virginia. Now, that's a long drive if you live in South Carolina, right? Especially if you live like on the South Carolina-Georgia border. You're talking 2 states away. Hours to drive to a doctor. And it was really embarrassing. Like, they could have made provisions for that. My personal feeling is they could have made provisions for that. They could have somehow worked it so that you could go to a UniteHealthcare doctor. This is my opinion, okay? They could have used UniteHealthcare doctors, but they didn't. So that was my first really bad experience. But prior to that, there was also, and this was ongoing, really, and it's still ongoing. Like, I just don't understand how a business can provide a service. So for the doctors, okay, people who went to school for a very long time, who are committed to, most of them are committed to providing a service to heal people, okay, this comes from your heart, in my feeling, in my opinion. The people that I know who are medical providers, there's something within them that they want to help, okay? And they have to do a lot to get to the point where they're legally allowed to do this. And so they're providing services for people, and they have to beg to be paid, okay? They have to beg to be paid after they provided the services because the claims are being denied. I've never heard of such a thing. I don't beg to be paid. I clean people's toilets and I get paid that day. So why is it that these doctors who go to school for all this time have to beg to get paid that little bit of money for an office visit or for a surgery or so on and so forth? And yeah, the things that you're hearing about the pre-authorizations and all that, it's a lot more complicated than just they're denying it. It's not just that. They also expect people, I'm going to say people because it's patients and doctors, to go through hoops, jump through hoops sometimes just to get the authorizations for things like a hysterectomy, a back surgery, breast reductions. These were the big ones back when I was working there. I'm going to tell you a little story. This was a long time ago. Sex change operations were new, and they were an exclusion across the board on all policies, okay? I don't know if that's the same now or not. I don't know. And it doesn't really matter what my feelings are on that specific issue, because this is not that specific issue. As I had been working for UniteHealthcare, I became a customer advocate, and I had gotten a call one day. So I was focused on the problems now. These were big problems. I wasn't just verifying benefits and sending out cards and reprocessing claims and things like that. This was people who had issues, okay? And I got a call from a doctor's office. It was a 14-year-old girl. She was in our system as female, who we had paid to have her testicles removed, but we wouldn't pay for the reconstruction of a vagina. This was not somebody looking for a sex change, which was how they denied it, was a sex change. This was a child who was a genuine hermaphrodite, okay, born with multiple sex parts, okay, a true medical condition. I don't know the outcome on that. I was first talking to the doctors, and I talked to the nurse. I didn't talk to the parents. because there was a language barrier. That was in, all I could do was advise the people that I was talking to who were professionals of what they had to do on the appeal process. And of course, they're trying to get this done, right? So eventually I talked to the doctor. That's how I know details on this particular case. And doctor ended up saying that he was going to go ahead and do it anyway. I don't know who paid for it. He probably ate the cost. But this one always stuck with me because I'm thinking, you know, when you're 14 years old, being 14 sucks, okay? It does. It's a horrible time in your life, and people go through puberty at a different time. But everything I thought about was, what was it like for this kid to go through puberty and have gym and be in a locker room and have this problem with their body? And I just don't know. Anyway, that was one of the cases. And I know that that's a really hot topic right now. I don't put this under that umbrella with the LGBTQ community. This was something that was actual birth defect that they were pushing back on. Okay. Lord have mercy. But it wasn't just that. It was things like, on a more day-to-day basis, dealing with claims that were denied because somebody went to the emergency room for a sprain. Now, see, here's where the kicker is, and where the delay and the deny comes in, that shooter put on the bullets. See, they can delay a claim because the provider is required to put the diagnosis on. So I sprained my ankle, right? I went to the emergency room. It wasn't a true emergency because it was a sprain. I need to put ice on it and elevate it and, you know, just maybe wrap it. It's not an emergency. But I don't know that. I'm out walking in my yard and I fall and I twist my ankle and it hurts like hell and I can't walk on it. You know, how am I supposed to know? So I go to the emergency room. They do an x-ray. It's not broken. It's just sprained. But they've denied it. Okay, so now we have to appeal it. The thing of it is, and this is what they don't tell people, and so I'm telling you right now, if you have what you think is an emergency, a true emergency, okay, because you don't know, the definition of an emergency in layman's terms, write this down if you can't remember it, is the fear of loss of life or limb. Okay? And it would happen a lot of times with migraines. People would have a migraine, and it would be one of those migraines that came on real sudden, and like, you know, your eyes don't work right anymore. Not a migraine that builds up, but a sudden migraine that you don't normally have, right? And they don't know if they're having a stroke. So they go to the hospital. Turns out it's a migraine. It's declined. It's denied. Because it's not an emergency. A migraine's not an emergency. We know that. But here you are, you're sitting at your kitchen table drinking your coffee, and all of a sudden you feel like you got shot in the head. You don't know if you're having a stroke or an aneurysm or what. So the logical thing to do as a person who does not have a bunch of medical equipment and personnel following you around, checking your every, you know, stat of the day, you go to the emergency room, right? Thank God it's not a stroke or an aneurysm, but they deny the claim. Yeah, so that's a tip right there, okay? If you're a regular person walking down the road and you think something happened, it's an emergency, you don't know, go to the hospital. And then call your insurance company if it turns out that you're okay. Thank God, right? I had a whole lot of thank God this year.
Hold on for a minute. You're watching Tyrone Bowman live, and this is a personal perspective. You're watching from a former UniteHealthcare ex-employee, and she's talking about her personal experiences that she encountered when she was working within and for UniteHealthcare. So she's speaking across a variety of things here, but this is not related necessarily to the ex CEO, the deceased Mr. Brian Thompson. So it's interesting to hear her story because I know people personally who have been affected by HMOs and etc. And they have a hard time getting claims paid. They have a hard time getting verified, specified doctors, and they get to run around. And some of you watch them right now. Some of you who will watch this program later talk about some of the problems that you've encountered. I'd like to hear from you in the comment section. Have you ever filed a claim against a healthcare company that you've been paying insurance to for years and for years and years, and then when you went to go to use that claim or to collect on it, they gave you the runaround. They act like they didn't know you. They pretend that you didn't exist, and they lied to you, manipulate you, control, and deceive you. So this is what the lady's talking about here. Her program is called "I Am the Boss of Me 63." Now let's get back to her perspective.
So they don't care about the providers.
Let me push up this volume. She said they don't care about the providers.
You know, just maybe wrap it. It's not an emergency. But I don't know that. I'm out walking in my yard and I fall and I twist my ankle and it hurts like hell and I can't walk on it. You know, how am I supposed to know? So I go to the emergency room. They do an x-ray. It's not broken. It's just sprained. But they've denied it. Okay, so now we have to appeal it. The thing of it is, and this is what they don't tell people, and so I'm telling you right now, if you have what you think is an emergency, a true emergency, okay, because you don't know, the definition of an emergency in layman's terms, write this down if you can't remember it, is the fear of loss of life or limb. Okay? And it would happen a lot of times with migraines. People would have a migraine, and it would be one of those migraines that came on real sudden, and like, you know, your eyes don't work right anymore. Not a migraine that builds up, but a sudden migraine that you don't normally have, right? And they don't know if they're having a stroke, so they go to the hospital. Turns out it's a migraine. It's declined. It's denied. Because it's not an emergency. A migraine's not an emergency. We know that. But here you are, you're sitting at your kitchen table drinking your coffee, and all of a sudden you feel like you got shot in the head. You don't know if you're having a stroke or an aneurysm or what. So the logical thing to do as a person who does not have a bunch of medical equipment and personnel following you around, checking your every, you know, stat of the day, you go to the emergency room, right? Thank God it's not a stroke or an aneurysm, but they deny the claim. Yeah, so that's a tip right there, okay? If you're a regular person walking down the road and you think something happened, it's an emergency, you don't know, go to the hospital. And then call your insurance company if it turns out that you're okay. Thank God, right? I had a whole lot of thank God this year. So they don't care about the providers because they don't have to pay them or they don't want to pay them. They don't care about the members. That's what they called them, customers. As long as they're paying their premiums. They really don't care. And they don't care about the employees either, let me tell you. They don't care. It's all about bottom line. So here's my personal experience, okay? After UniteHealthcare acquired MAMZ, of course, they started to phase that out, and then that insurance doesn't even exist anymore, I don't believe. And so as the MAMZ product was being phased out, they had employees that they, quote, didn't need anymore. And they did a mass layoff.
Firings.
And because they did this mass layoff, they also had people quitting. And the CEO at the time realized that was a huge mistake. Huge mistake, because people were now feeling like their job was in jeopardy. Maybe they should just start looking. And so they did. And he said that it was a mistake and that from now on they wouldn't just do these surprise layoffs, okay? That they would give people a chance. They'd let them know that we're closing your department in such and such amount of time, and you have a chance to either reapply through the company for another position or look for another job, okay? And that seems reasonable to me. It's not a law, but it's a reasonable way to, first of all, keep morale up, right? Yeah, that didn't come out. That didn't hold water.
No, it was a
whatever, because
lie.
that's not what happened to me. Okay, I'm going to tell you that right now. And let me tell you something. They know for a long time before they're going to lay off. They know this is planned. There's all kinds of things put in place before they do the actual layoff. Okay? It's very organized. It's not just, oh, next week we're going to lay off these people. It's not. And I tell you that, and I can tell you why. They knew a year before they laid off my team. They knew a year before, and the signs were there. I actually, hindsight's always 2020. So my team, we we were the evening, weekend, and holiday team. So we worked at night when the rest of my department was closed. We worked on the weekends when the rest of my department was closed, and we worked the holidays when the rest of my department was closed. Okay, so we worked the crap hours, and yes, the calls were less during that time period, but there were certain things that you had to keep in mind. So I was at the point, I kept asking for a requisition to hire more people. I was down to 5 people. At peak season, I had 50, but at this point, it was like summertime, and I was down to like 5 people. My team originally was 10, okay? But see, they go by numbers. They don't go by the people. They don't use common sense when it comes to running a business. All they looked at was the numbers. And our workforce team decided that 5 people was enough for the coverage based on the number of calls that came in after hours and on holidays and on weekends. And so I wasn't even working this day. And I had one girl working. It was a Saturday or a Sunday. And the calls were getting backed up because there was only one person working, so people were in the queue for a very long period of time, and I'm talking like 20, 30 minutes. And then she had to take her lunch break, which she's required to take. So she's off the phone for 30 minutes. That means there's nobody to take a call during her lunch break or her breaks. She's entitled to 15-minute breaks on an 8-hour shift, right? She gets two 15-minute breaks and a 30-minute lunch. And so now she's got people who have been on hold for a long period of time, and they're pissed. They're mad, first of all, that whatever's going wrong. And then second of all, they're mad because they had to wait so long. So all this time that they're waiting for her to take the next call, they're infuriated, right? And they're screaming and yelling at her. Please be nice to your customer service representative when you call. It's not their fault, okay? They're trying to help you. Anyway, she was ready to walk off, and I begged her not to, and I'm calling my boss on her day off. Okay, she called me on my day off, and I called my boss on her day off, who was in Duluth, and I explained it to her, and now this had been going on for months, okay? This had been going on for months, and finally I told her, I said, there's more to it than just the numbers, okay? There's more to it than just the numbers. Like, she's trying to explain to me that cost-wise, it doesn't make sense to have more people because the numbers don't support it. Well, that's true, okay? If you're only looking at the numbers, but you're not thinking about the employees who have to deal with this, and you're not thinking about the customers. In this case, it had to do with the FSA cards and the HSA cards, so their MasterCards. So these people are standing in Walmart trying to get their prescription, and it's being denied for some reason, which is embarrassing, okay? Because the person behind you doesn't know that this is linked to your insurance. It just looks like you didn't pay your bill, okay? And you people above me have college educations. Do you not know? Can you not relate to what's going on out there on the street and on your first line people who represent your company? Do you not know? Do you not know? Can you not put yourself in those shoes and imagine how embarrassing it would be when you're trying to get an antibiotic because your kid is at home sick and can't breathe, and your insurance is, your card that you're supposed to pay this with isn't working right? Of course you're upset, right? And so you're calling this girl who's sitting in an office all by herself, and I'm talking like she's the only person in the building, except for the security. and there's nobody there to help her. Excuse me. And so, yeah, they don't care. They don't care. Well, when I use that kind of logic, I did get a requisition, and I got more people to come in. And so, yeah, they don't care. They don't care. Well, when I use that kind of logic, and there's nobody there to help her, excuse me. And so, yeah, they don't care. So we're having this meeting with all of my peers, and her boss called it passionate. It wasn't passionate, it was abusive. And this woman really needed to have that addressed because she was not going along with what the culture was that we were supposed to be conveying to our employees. So she would say, basically, I want you to treat your employees this way, but I'm going to treat you that way. Anyway, I don't know if she's still with the company. I really don't care. She pops up on my Facebook as somebody I might know. Still, after all these years, I should just block her.
Yeah,
Anyway,
you should. Just block her. Be a good idea.
I went to work for, they changed some things corporately, and I ended up working with another person, the person that got me the requisite so that I could hire. And I was always asking for other things to do for me and my team, okay? Because there was downtime. They could have used us to do other things after hours that the daytime team maybe didn't have time for. But they never gave that to us.
Because they didn't care.
Oh, I want to go back to this vital signs thing. So, going back,
Nope, they did not care.
there was the engagement score, but there was also a manager effectiveness score, which, it was there.
You're watching Tyrone Bowman live on YouTube.
But nobody ever used that. They used the employee engagement score. And finally, after a couple years of this, I thought, why aren't they using that manager effectiveness? That relates more directly to me than the overall feeling of the employees towards the company. And so
Somebody's blowing up her
I
phone.
wrote up this proposal, and one of the things I used to support my suggestion was back in 2008. The economy was really, really bad, and that year they had to, well, what they decided to do was not give any raises that year. Nobody got a raise, supposedly, although I believe there were some people who got bonuses. Anyway, I'm not even going to go there. So they didn't give out raises, and the rationale was they didn't want to lay people off because, it didn't work out so good. But anyway, they were trying to be nice about not laying people off during a really bad economic time. And the engagement wasn't so great that year. And so what I proposed, and they were always saying it's the manager's responsibility to make sure that the employees were engaged. It's our responsibility. Well, I can't get in somebody's brain. I mean, I can present an idea, I can explain the rationale for something, but I can't control somebody's thoughts. And that was the example that I used, that I can explain this rationale why they didn't give raises was just so that nobody lost their job. But I can't keep somebody from thinking, well, screw them. I don't care if somebody gets laid off. I want my raise. That's common sense. I don't have control over that. And so excuse me, I sent this to them, and it just kind of was, oh, this is great. And that was the end of that. I never heard anything else about it. So almost a year later, a little bit time before review time, can you resend that to me? I don't know where I put it. Of course I can, because I saved it. Okay? So I sent it to them. I don't know if they ever implemented my idea or not. That makes a hell of a lot more sense than what they were doing at the time. I don't know. But anyway, I sent it to them. And don't you know, within a very short period of time, it was, I think, August or September, before open enrollment, before they got really busy, They called me one day and they said, we're coming in tomorrow, my boss's boss, and your team is going to be laid off. We want you to come tomorrow, and help us. Okay, sure, I'll do that. Because you gave us enough time to find a job. You gave us warning like you said you would way back. So I left, and oh, by the way, I had people working on my team that had been with the company longer than I had.
Really?
Okay, so what that says is that, that's what I was told by my leadership.
What did they tell
really
you?
Good at retaining employees. My team was very engaged, and it was. My engagement scores on my team were very high, well outside the expectation. Okay, and yeah, can you believe it? Cleaning lady can have good, good leadership skills, whatever.
Wow.
So, yep, they told. I said I'm leaving. When my team came into work that night, I wasn't there. I left.
Good.
I said I'm not staying. Because there's no way I could have stayed there with my team that night and not told them what was happening. There's no way. No way. And he was going to come in because it was nighttime. He would be there probably around 4 o'clock. I would have to find a place for him to meet with people. And my team comes in at 5, and I told him not to get on the phones. I told him what was happening. Just stay. You need to stay. And they're going to tell you what your severance package is and so on and so forth. And when everybody was laid off, I left. And I'm driving home. It's dark. And don't you know, my supervisor calls me, bawling her eyes out. I don't feel sorry for you. You knew this was coming. Why are you crying to me? You still got a job. And it could have been handled a lot differently. And here I am on the highway in the dark at night, and you want to sob to me when I'm the one that lost my job? Whatever, shut up. Anyway, we shouldn't go around shooting people, okay? That's not cool. That is not cool, and I'm pretty sure UniteHealthcare is not the only one that has these problems and does these things. I know they're not, okay? I think the insurance companies need to take a good hard look at what they're doing to people across the board. And meanwhile, I'm going to go clean somebody's toilet today, and I'm going to be happy about
it. That was a very interesting story that we heard, and it was wrong. She made it perfectly clear. And I personally know some friends of mine who just got rid of UniteHealthcare insurance. I said because it is garbage, and they had too many problems with it, and irregardless of what the company is like, there's no justification for just going around in broad daylight and murdering somebody. And I'm so tired of reading the headlines that's trying to treat this person with kid gloves. So who cares if he graduated from an Ivy League school? What difference does it make? Who cares about his IQ? Who cares about his psychological state of mind? He is a murderer. That's what he is. He is a murderer. And he should be treated as such. The late Brian Thompson did not deserve to be murdered in broad daylight on the streets of New York City. And it took forever to find this guy. And he was in Altoona, Pennsylvania, sitting in a McDonald's restaurant eating with no conscience, no guilt, no remorse. It's going to be interesting to see how his lawyers try to defend this crap. I'm a criminal justice major. And what is my aim and what is my goal once I'm finished with all this law school stuff? It is simple. To fight for everyday men and women that have been wronged. And the reason why I'm doing it one day, I'll tell you. It's a personal story. I know what the criminal justice system is like firsthand. Till then, never surrender, never quit. Thank you for watching. Kindly subscribe to Tyrone Bowman Live.